Right, we're live February 25th, Sunday. We got a sub two deal. So let's take a look at this one. This is a deal in San Antonio, Texas, 78252. You will see right here that, let's see, look at some of these photos. Medina Landing. All right, let's see. I can put some of these numbers right in the middle. So this is a 2-2, 741 square feet, 2021 build. Now, because I don't have the exact address for this property, what I'm going to do is simply assume that I'm just going to underwrite the deal for Section 8 in the zip code specifically. Now, we've talked a lot about examples about how we can essentially rule out deals if they're not deals or even close to being deals. So today, let's kind of quickly look at this deal to see if it's worth our time and even worth our time to reach out to the wholesaler and say, hey, give me more information, right? So for this property, is a 2-2, 741 square feet. I don't have the street address to pull off the, whatchamacallit, to pull out the market rent analysis. But because I saw that the photo says Medina Landing, I'm gonna go ahead and try to look up where is Medina Landing. Okay. Medina Landing, San Antonio. Let's see. Is that it? Hmm. I'm assuming it's somewhere around there. Condition of the home is pretty good. I'm assuming it's pretty much turnkey, so I'm not going to assume that many renovations. I might just replace the flooring in both the rooms for this property. And what I did was, well, if I already know what my payment standards are, so when I Googled, usually just to kind of refresh and recap, right? Normally, what we do is we go HUD FMR and we go to access to small area FMRs and we look up the FY 2024 FMRs. Now, when you go to Texas and to San Antonio, so it's in Bexar County or Bexar County, whatever it is, we want to get the rents for this property by bedroom count and by zip code 78252. 78252 gives us a rent of 1770 as FMR, 78252. Okay. 1770. 78252, 78252. This is for a two bed. Didn't seem like there was a space for a third bedroom, so let's look that out. I do not have the market rents here, so I'm gonna leave that blank. But I do know that the payment standard, if you look up Bexar County payment standards, they just released their 2024 payment standards. And interestingly enough, they have their own groups for payment standards. Like they also understand where do the zip codes fall within the group number. And as you can see, the higher the group letter, the more rent or higher the rent ceiling is for the zip codes. So they understand the area pretty well, right? Because they want their rents to be competitive. So I'm going to assume that they already did some market analysis and market rent comparison so that this is what they would potentially call as reasonable. All right. So that's why I'm not using market rent estimator on affordablehousing.com today. And that's why I'm not using the HUD FMR as closely because this gives me a better level of granularity to choose and decide how to assess my potential rent potential on this property. So if you really want to get really technical, you guys can always go to the utility allowances and subtract it. So if you don't provide heating for a two-bedroom home, you got to subtract $4. If you don't provide water, you got to subtract 15. You don't provide sewer, you get to subtract 20. You don't subtract if you don't plus supply trash, you subtract $30. So that's how I would deduct the utility allowances from the payment standard. All right. This property is 78252. 78252. Let's see if I can find this on this page. 78252 is in group F. I'm just going to show this to you. All right. This is the Bexar County's website, Bexar County Housing Authority. You just go down here to the resources section, participant and voucher holder resources, and you would come here to the section called payment standards, and that's how we got to this PDF right here for San Antonio. And you see that 78252 is in group F, and you see that the group F, the payment standard here is 1770. All right, 1770. So let's put these numbers down. 1770. And that's the same as the FMR. Interesting, right? Interesting. So that means that the FMR is equal to payment standards. So in this scenario, there was not a bump of or increase for utilities, which means that it's just the FMR minus utility allowances, and that's your maximum rent. So for 1770, let's plug in right here now. Let's assume there's some utilities. Let's just call it 200. Let's call it 250 for, no, it's a small home. Let's call it $200 for utilities for expenses. All right. This home purchase price, let's get the details here from the Word doc. Cash to close is 15,850. 15,850. For those of you that are watching Instagram, feel free to pop onto YouTube on youtube.com/@Kent_HE. Cash to close, 7.5%. Another, what's going on here? This is total? Okay, total cash to close. So they're including closing costs in this. That seems really low. Closing costs at in Tennessee for 1350. That seems really close. I don't believe that. I don't know if I just put in 2.5% for closing costs on my own. And then for renovations for this property, it's only 741 square feet. And if I remember correctly, I don't need to paint the entire place, but I'm gonna set aside some money to paint 741 because it looks like it was in pretty condition. And there were only 2 rooms that needed to be replaced. So I'm assuming each was 10 by 15, 150 square feet times 2. That's 300 square feet. So that's all I need for that piece. $500 to keep the landscaping clean. I'm assuming there's no roof issues because it looks pretty new for the most part. Don't need any other renovations. That's 7,348. Subtract to 20,000. Guess that was carrying over from last analysis that we did. The asking price here is added value. I think it's 210. All right, let's put 210. The Subto mortgage balance has a balance of 163,048. 163,048. 3.75%. 3.75% interest rate. And just so you know, the PITI is 1297.88. So I'm going to go to the property tax section. It goes 1297.48. And I'm going to subtract the principal and I'm going to subtract interest, right? I don't have to be exact. Just remember that. I don't have to be exact. But I'm simply backing into the property tax and insurance number and capturing any sort of missed calculations on the PITI piece because it makes me whole, right? This has been what's been disclosed to me by the wholesaler. So that's why I'm taking on this number. So I got that piece, and I'm adding an extra $35 for insurance just because usually insurance for an investment property is more expensive than a primary residence property, which is why this is an FHA loan. Usually it was intended for someone's primary home residence for that deal. Okay. I got 10% for maintenance. I'm setting aside every single month. I got $200 for utilities. I got 10% for property management. I got 3% for vacancy just because it looks like it's in a nicer area. So this deal, as is right now, is a negative $170 of cash flow. Why might that be the case? And why is it so different than what's been listed on the property? So you see right here, right? This person said, hey, if you do Section 8, you're going to get $1,770 a month, and that's going to equal to a 17% cash and cash return. Why is that? Why are they saying 17% cash and cash return? Now, if I were to say they are only just taking the 1770, subtract the 1297, then that's probably what that is. But we all understand that when you're in real estate, you have expenses. Something will eventually break at your home and you have to repair it. And in this scenario, we also understand that there are utilities that you need to provide, right? You don't get the full 1770 if you do not provide all the utilities. And if you provide utilities, there are expenses for utilities like water, sewer, trash, electricity. So it's unrealistic to just say, oh, it's my cash and cash return is the 1770 per month on Section 8, and I subtract the PITI. That's so far from the truth. And that's why it's on you to, and your responsibility to understand, how do I spot a deal? How do I not take what people are saying and posting their deals at face value? Because there's something that they might not understand either, right? It's not their fault. We give them the benefit of the doubt that their assumption was, hey, 1770 just whatever you look up, and that's the rent I can charge. It's not the case, especially in this scenario where you saw that the payment standard is 1770 right on the Bexar County Housing Authority website, and you saw the payment standards. And when you see the payment standards, you know that this includes utilities. So in order for you to get a full rent, you have to subtract utilities if you're not providing utilities. So that's why this is not a deal, even though it was listed as a 17% cash on cash return. Just be aware of the scenarios. I'm not going to go through multiple scenarios for this deal today because there's only one scenario. It's a sub-2 deal. It's not a deal where you say, hey, whatever, do this, whatever, do this, whatever, do this. It just is listed for what it is because that's what's been under contract by the wholesaler. But that's how you quickly understand and vet deals so that if you ever see a deal that says, hey, Section 8, this is the FMR, that's correct. That's right. But be aware if you ever see a deal that says, hey, cash and cash return is X%. You have to do your research. And how I will go about it is, one, you can look up the HUD FMR. You can look up the market rent to assess for rent reasonableness. And then your other option is to look for the city or county that this property is in, look up the city or county's housing authority and see what they do, right? Because you might stumble into a county where they also list out exactly how they categorize each zip code into different groups, such as the example for Bexar County. And San Antonio is a huge city, right? So they know what they're doing. They already understand, like, hey, what is rent reasonableness? Right? Sometimes folks will lump in an entire zip code, and this is exactly what they did. Like, hey, all these zip codes are in group D, all these zip codes in group E, these are in F, these are in G. And they understand where the rents are typically higher. So if you ever want to look at, let's say you want to look at this list and you say, okay, well, all right, if I want to follow the 1% rule, do I see any 4-bedroom homes here for less than $250,000 because of the 1% rule? So if it's 250 grand, I want to be able to rent it out for $2,500 a month in Group F. And that's how you might decide to go into Group F in San Antonio and say, well, are there any units under $250,000 that are 4-bedroom properties? Or maybe you can get creative and there's a 3-bedroom property in one of these zip codes that are 200 grand, and you can add an extra garage conversion or add an extra bedroom to get there. So a lot of people ask me, hey, what's the best area to look for Section 8 properties? Sometimes you got to figure out where you have your team. And then ultimately, you can use some data and some theoretical analytical approach to narrow down on your approach so that you're not just looking everywhere and window shopping everywhere. That gives you at least a better sense of direction to go into that area. That's fine. That's for me? Yeah. No. Thanks, Elaine. Sorry, my daughter wants to be part of the live. So today, hopefully this was helpful. We went through an example of a sub-2 deal that was posted by the community members, and we shared how we would underwrite it using just the Section 8 exit strategy. Is that the right move? Is that the only way to look at deals? No, absolutely not. You can look at a midterm rental. You can look at a short-term rental. I'm simply showing you, if you were to look at the Section 8 exit strategy only, how would you get a better level of understanding of what is a realistic rent you can get? And then subsequently, what are the associated expenses along with it, right? We got the deal. We didn't even have the address, but it doesn't matter because when we looked at Bexar County, they gave you the payment standards by zip code. That's probably the best resource because it's at the local municipality or county level. And from that point onwards, you can just back into, hey, I got 10% for maintenance. I got X amount of dollars for utilities. I got X amount, 8 to 10% for property management. I got 3 to 5% for vacancy. And then you got to see if it's cash flowing. Some of you might have different strategies for investing. Sometimes you are looking just for cash flow opportunities. Sometimes you're looking for appreciation. That's your own strategy. And this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments. I'm simply showing the work that I'm doing every single day. Just remember, for you to buy 1,000 deals, you probably have to analyze like 10x as much. So you want to buy 100, you probably had to analyze 1,000. So hopefully this was helpful. It was Sunday afternoon. Let's stay consistent together, right? Just remember, all you need is 18 minutes a day. 18 minutes a day for 365 days, and you will spend 100 hours on this subject, and you will be better than 95% of the world analyzing deals. Do this with me. Sometimes we get scared because we don't know what to pick or we don't even know how to start. Well, learning how to underwrite a deal and recognizing a deal when it is a deal, that seems pretty important. But understand your strengths, what gives you energy and what doesn't give you energy, and find a team to join. That's my best advice for today. All right. Happy Sunday, everybody. Spend some quality time with your family and friends today.